Hi everyone, Trina here, and this is The Hidden Secrets of the Divine Feminine, and we are at 1.6, and this is Chapter 4, The Great Medicine Circle and the Four Gates of Heaven. So we will get into it. The Grail of the Feminine urges us to open our minds to a new vision of reality, a revelation of all cosmic life as a divine unity. It is to be born into a world lit by an invisible radiance, ensouled by a divine presence, graced and sustained by an incandescent light and love. Andrew Harvey and Anne Baring, The Divine Feminine. 5 years had passed since I had been to the magical little house in the forest. And I saw, as I stepped out of the car, that Shasta's cottage had barely changed. The crisp golden leaves of late Indian summer sparkled against the blue sky, and I could feel the pull of the grove's energy and the wild beauty calling. I was here to ask Shasta to convene a sacred circle for me, for I was ready to study with her. I felt that for all the knowledge that I had gained, there were questions that perhaps only she could answer. I took my time walking to the far side of the house, feeling the sacred energies gathered in the grove. I saw that Shasta had added an herb garden to her vegetable garden beside the house, and from the top of the hill I could see new sanctuaries hidden among the foliage. Statues of the goddesses and arbors of honeysuckle and sweet alcoves. The fire pit that lay at the lowest point of the medicine circle was now half hidden by kudzu, and there was no sign of the 3 cauldrons I had seen years earlier. I wandered idly what had become of them. I made my way to a cluster of chairs and waited for Shasta to join me. I suspected that she had known why I had called. A flock of butterflies fluttered around me, a symbol of transformation and change. Well, perhaps these butterflies knew more than I did. Whatever happened now would certainly change my life forever. Shasta came out of the house with 2 large mugs of tea. She handed me one in silence and led the way down towards the fire pit, towards the medicine circle. She drew me wordlessly to the eastern altar, and we stood before a marble slab that had been raised several feet into the air to create a platform. Upon it stood a life-size statue of an Asian woman draped in gold. Besides this was a smaller statue of Isis with her outstretched wings. And then, completing the Trinity, was a medium-sized statue of Mother Mary. She led me to have a moment to breathe it all in, and then she began. In the goddess path, all ceremony is done in a sacred circle. That is because the circle is the totality of the all. The circle is not a hierarchical system. It is cyclical, like the universe. Everything moves in a circle. The seasons, the planets, the constellations, and the sky. We are all a part of this sacred circle. And this is why the sites like Stonehenge and Avonbury were laid out in circles. The path of the circle, the goddess of the all, links us to the heartbeat of the cosmos. She let those words sink in, and I felt myself falling back into the connection with something that I had known long ago. In the sacred language of light, the circle with a cross at the center is the symbol for the soul. It is also the symbol used in astrology for planet Earth, telling us that we are linked to the Mother Earth. From the very beginning, the Native Americans call this the Great Medicine Circle, a symbol for balance and mastery. They believe that all people are flawed in some way. Thus, the medicine circle, which is connected to the great mystery, the source of all things, gives us a way to come back into balance with ourselves and heal our wounds. I followed her words carefully. I knew some of this, of course, but I had never heard it put this way. The 4 arms of the cross represented the 4 elements, the 4 directions, and of course, the 4 aspects of nature: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. In the union of all 4, these elements, mastery is found. Shasta went on, when you enter a sacred circle, you begin in the east, and you travel sunwise or clockwise. The east is the gate of new beginnings, the place of the rising of the sun and of illumination. It is the place of hope, where Mary, the Mother, sits, the Virgin, at the beginning of time. It is the place where Horus arises with his great wings of truth, turning the universe. It is the home of the sweet goddess of love. I nodded, taking the bowl of pink roses to the open altar. It is said, long ago, during the time of Atlantis, the earth spun in the opposite direction, and the sun rose in the western gate. But now we travel the circle sunwise, as the light moves in the sky. I was not completely surprised by what she said. I had studied the legends of Atlantis and Lemuria and Tibet, and I knew the theories about the magnetic pole shifts. Scientists have now discovered that the magnetic poles of our planets have reversed many times during Earth's long, convoluted history. Sometimes this pole reversal is gentle, and sometimes it is catastrophic. Was it possible that such reversals had actually caused a change in the rising position of the sun? Shasta continued, there are only a few shamans who can work the wheel counterclockwise. These are usually Celtic or Native American medicine people. They are the Hyokas, the shamans that walk backwards and thus can unwind karma. I teach my students to travel east to west in the circle, honoring the natural harmony of life. As I studied the eastern altars, my eyes drank in the red and gold candles, the ribbons on the trees, the sweet fragrance of roses. I could indeed sense a presence here. Shasta watched me carefully and wondered why Mary and Isis were on the same altar. I wondered why Mary and Isis were on the same altar. Mary and Isis are one, she murmured, as if she was reading my mind. These are the sweet goddesses of compassion and wisdom. I gave her a puzzled look. Mary and Isis are one? Just what did that mean? Isis is the template for Mary. Ooh, interesting word there. Isis is the template for Mary. Just as Christ would be the template for the Son of God. It's crazy. Templates. The image. So, for the first images of Isis holding her son Horus are the templates for the Madonna and Child. Both Isis and Mary are mothers of compassion, who brought saviors into the world in a time of darkness. The idea of a great cosmic play seemed to be at work here. I thought as if these vast archetypal energies come in again and again into the world to act out similar dramas with different characters in different eras. I digested her words without speaking. Then I lifted my chin towards the Asian woman draped in gold. Who is she? Ah, Kuan Yin, the lady of boundless compassion. She was born from the tears of an Avalokiteshvara or Bodhisattva from the heavenly realms. Her consort is Father Heaven. He is said to have lived with her as the jewel of the lotus. Oh, she is like Ariel, I thought, the divine mother of compassion. I had heard of the Hindu prayer, Om Mani Padme Hum. The prayer literally meant, I salute the jewel within the lotus of the One. Contained within this phrase were also the seed syllables Ma for mother, Pa for father, Hu for human being, and this mantra with the original seed syllable of creation, Om. Isis, Mary, and Kuan Yin are the sweet goddesses of healing who nurtured the world. Shasta explained. She lifted her hands and her voice rose, softly modulated with power. I felt the energies in the garden shift, and the plants seemed to quiver around us. Hail Kuan Yin, Hail Mary, Hail Isis. Were these beings coming into the grove now, I wondered? We ask that you bless this one, your daughter, who has come before you, seeking today. May you guide her in the right way and lead her on a path that is right for her and for all whom she touches. After a long moment, Shasta lowered her arms and drew me silently to the next altar. This was the southern gate. The altar had two platforms, one higher than the other, and at the bottom, the one was draped in a red satin cloth. Red candles formed a semicircle of light around a small globe of the earth and an empty turtle shell. There were also many seashells gathered here, along with the translucent skin of a snake. I didn't understand any of these symbols. Why would anyone have dead animal skins and turtle shells on an altar? Whose altar is this? I asked awkwardly. Shell Woman's. Turtle Woman's. Gaia's. The earth herself. The south is the altar of all great goddesses who come from the sea. This is the altar of the ground we stand upon. It also honors the earth's oceans. The white shell woman is the protector of the dolphins and the whales and of all animals of the earth. She lives in the South Seas with a turtle. A picture of Botticelli's Birth of Venus planting a rose in my mind. Was she talking about Aphrodite? What did that have to do with the snake? Was it the snake from the Garden of Eden that tried to seduce Eve? But if so, what was it doing here in the garden of the goddess? My mind was trying to catch up. I lifted my chin. What is the serpent doing here? Shasta smiled. That's Uchet Buto. Uchet Buto. Perhaps the most ancient of all goddesses. She represents the Kundalini energy of the universe. Serpent wisdom. This is the chi that runs up the spine, moving through every one of the body's energy centers until it reaches the forehead, the seat of inner sight. In this untransformed state, it is the serpent that must be conquered, concerned with survival issues only. But in its awakened state, it is the spiritual initiate who has embraced the Kundalini life force and harnessed it for knowledge. It represents life, death, and transformation, part of the natural cycles of Earth. Like the aurora boreas, the snake biting its own tail. This symbol symbolizes the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. In the Egyptian legends, they say this goddess existed before all gods and goddesses put together. Okay, a serpent. Well, it's certainly a different interpretation from the Adam and Eve story that I had learned in Sunday school. But did it make it any less valid? After all, weren't all these just symbols or parables for archetypal principles that move through the universe? So I guess the ancients used the snake because it was the only animal that shed its skin while it was still alive. It seemed to be like a perfect symbol for being born again. Along with the rising of the Kundalini energy through the body, it was one of the most ancient symbols for the initiate's path: life, death, release, and rebirth. And the caduceus, the medical symbol for healing. It has two snakes intertwined around a staff. That came from Egypt. I knew it represented the male and female nervous systems that ran up the spine, known in Sanskrit as the Ida and the Pingala. These two currents crisscrossed at each of the 7 major chakras of the body, the 7 energy centers where the world of spirit connects to the world of matter. The spiritual masters teach that in order to fully activate our mastery, we have to first clean out and then activate all 7 chakras. Then we can balance the yin and the yang currents within us. My mind flashed back to the pharaohs. Didn't the rulers of Egypt wear a serpent in the front of their crowns? Maybe they were trying to say that they had activated the Kundalini and acquired this mastery. Maybe the mastery of the serpent was much deeper than I had thought. Healing and human biology. Next, Shasta drew me towards the western gate. I saw a cat-headed Egyptian goddess that I had glimpsed so long ago in her living room. What is her name again? I asked. Sekhmet. She is the galactic goddess. She did not come from our world at all. Apparently not, I thought to myself, sizing up her strange cat head. She did not look like anybody I had ever seen, but I could well imagine that there were many kinds of beings on other planets that looked different from us, and why not human life? It could have arisen in worlds but been blended with many other species besides primates. After all, if alien visitation reports are true, then there is an insectoid type of alien. There's also reptilians and several other variations on the human types. Why wouldn't there be a strain of feline humans as well? Shasta raised her brows. I am a priestess of Sekhmet. Oh, I said softly. Tell me about her. She smiled quietly, and I wondered just what she was thinking. Legends tell us once, long ago, the gods summoned Sekhmet to cleanse our planet of the genetic abominations that were created by the scientists in Atlantis. Wow, I remember that. There was a lot of problems with the chimeras. When the gods could not subdue the half-human monsters, they asked Sekhmet to do it. According to the stories, she wiped them all out and protected the earth. Thus, she is considered both a warrior and a protectress. Sekhmet was known as a great healer in Egypt, and even today her small temple stands behind the great temple of Karnak in Luxor, for she is very much alive on the inner planes. Do you have this power to heal? Shasta assumed a cryptic expression. All priests and priestesses develop some kind of healing ability. This is a natural attribute of women. We are by nature life givers and nurturers because of the Divine Mother that lives within us. I wondered then if she was speaking of something hidden within our genetics or merely a principle. But before I could ask, Shasta went on. The Cosmic Mother has been revered in cultures around the world long before the patriarchal gods were even born. This is because each human being's biological origin is always female before it becomes male. What? I raised my eyes in astonishment. What was she saying? Look it up. I'll show you the references. I don't understand, I stammered. Please say again. Biology has confirmed that every living creature begins as a female. All mammals are biologically female first, becoming male as an added hormonal development. My mind reeled in disbelief. How was this possible? This was the exact opposite of what I had been taught in the Bible. In fact, this was one of men's great claims to the superiority, is that they had been created first. Judeo-Christian theology teaches that Adam was created first in the image of God, and that Eve was taken from Adam's rib, almost like an afterthought. This is one of the many justifications of the male-dominated church, and this is what they have used for centuries to make women feel that they were inferior, all created just to do man's bidding. If science actually revealed that we were all biologically had our beginnings as female, then the patriarchal religions would be found to be lying all along. They have completely subverted the natural order. What they told us was a fabrication designed to manipulate women for their own political purposes. How could this theology continue to be taught if it contradicted all biological fact? Shasta was still speaking. Long ago, human beings knew that everything was born of woman. So the Great Mother was honored as the creator of all. That is why they called her the heavens, the Milky Way, the source of mother's milk. They knew that everything emerged from her. The Egyptians referred to her as Hathor, the cow goddess of milk and honey, or Nut, a term meaning night. In French, Nut is the mother of the starry skies. It is in her body that we travel after death, through the sea of the galaxy. And even before the creation of the heavens, there was none. The primordial ocean of mercy. Years later, I would discover that this ancient description of the cosmic ocean as a realm where the scientists believe there is no polarity, where atoms are squeezed so tightly that the electrons are pushed out of their orbits and can move around freely. A place beyond polarity. In Egypt, none was this great cosmic ocean from which all being arose. She is the undefined, the undifferentiated, the energy before creation. And this is a picture they show. Okay, Shasta continued. It is from Mother Earth that everything comes, every piece of wood, coal, iron, or wool, every animal, every plant. But our society has forgotten this. When we dishonor the Mother, we dishonor all that holds the universe in balance. We were now standing at the western gate, and I saw a large wooden medicine shield nailed to a post. It was painted black and red, and the altar below was also black. There was a large spider web on one side of it. The west is the place of woman, Shasta explained, the place of hidden power. It is the seat of the secret societies, the mysteries of all that is hidden, so we paint it black. Like the secrets of wisdom contained within the Black Madonna, it is the vessel of life that is veiled from sight, although the patriarchy has tried to destroy her. The priestess of Isis have long been the caretakers of these secrets. This is where the deepest mysteries were passed from mother to daughter, generation to generation, a vast lineage of underground wisdom. In the later years, I was to realize just how true Shasta's words were. The source of all great spiritual traditions flowed from the wisdom and the cultures of Egypt, India, and China. And this wisdom spilled out into the world. It had birthed the mystical teachings of the Druids, the Mayans, the Essenes, the Greeks, the Therapeutae, the Sufis, the Magi, the Kabbalists, and the Gnostic Christians and Rosicrucians. It had also influenced the inner teachings and the circles of the Native Americans. But as the age of darkness fell, this secret stream had nearly been strangled by the church. The world had been steeped in religious wars. Book burnings and ignorance and deeper teachings had been forced underground. Long ago, the wise teacher Thoth, god of wisdom in ancient Egypt, had predicted this fall in a Hermetic writing called The Lament. Thoth writes, "There will come a time when it will be seen that in vain have the Egyptians honored the divinity within the pious minds, and with the assiduous service, all their holy worship will become inefficacious. The gods leaving the earth will go back to heaven. They will abandon Egypt. This land, once the home of religion, will be widowed by its gods and left destitute. Strangers will fill the country. And not only will there be no longer be care for religious observance, but a yet more painful thing will be laid down under so-called laws, under pain of punishments, that all must abstain from acts of piety or cult worship towards the gods." Who would preserve this knowledge once it was lost? I wondered, how could we reclaim it today? I realized then that there had to be people like Shasta out there, people like me, souls who were actually reincarnating of ancient initiates, alive now in our time. They had begun to reawaken their memories and recapture what had been lost through all of the centuries of death and destruction. Was this the reason that the priestess of Isis had called me years ago? Over time, I was to learn that the destruction of each great civilization approached the mystery schools. They sent initiates into other lands to set up centers for wisdom in places around the globe. But again and again, the powers of politics, greed, and ignorance had sought to wipe out these streams of wisdom, so that now all that remained were the broken fragments of legend and crumbling stone. I knew intuitively that this deeper wisdom was somehow woven into the heart of the goddess, and if we only had the keys to decode her symbols, we could awaken to the wisdom behind them. But in those early years, I did not yet know the language of Hermetics that had been taught by the masters, nor did I realize that there were other spiritual initiates who still honored the Divine Mother, even in the mystical orders of patriarchal societies. Okay, we will get to the last gate on the next one. Oh, goodness. Interesting. I had no idea what those gates represented, and that's really cool and profound, and I love it. So you all have a wonderful day or night, wherever you may be. I will see you on the next one. May each of us find the connection to the gates of creation that we hold within us, because each one of those gates are within each one of us. So I love you all. May we walk through the right path at the right time and the right gate to stay on our purpose and our soul's path of its own evolution. And remember, all of our journeys are going to look different because we are here to be all of it. So I love you. See you on the next one. Have a great day or night, wherever you may be.